welcome to World Kitchen. This is the first time I've done a solo performance here in quite a while, so it's going to be fun today. This one is pretty much a relaxed week before the holidays kind of event. And for those of you celebrating Hanukkah, happy Hanukkah today. There are so many winter holidays celebrated between, November and January, early February. And I think over the last couple of years of World Kitchen, we've done this December World Kitchen as holiday cookies from around the world. We've done soups from around the world. And today we're going to do some biscotti. And I don't claim to be a biscotti expert by any means. I've just been making it for about 30 years. And this is my favorite recipe. It's so versatile. You can do so much with it. And it's the same basic recipe for anything. And then you can just add and subtract whatever you want to make it a different flavor or different kind. So because of the way the biscotti needs to chill once you get the dough ready, I mentioned that if you were going to cook along, maybe you could have prepared your dough ahead of time. But if you didn't do that, that's okay. We will try to work a little extra time in there for your dough to chill real quickly while we're doing a couple of other things. And because of the way the timing works out, I went ahead and baked up a batch. So you'll see that at the end. I've also got a batch in the oven right now because the whole meaning of biscotti is that it's a twice baked cookie. So I've got a batch in baking now because it does have to bake for a bit. Then it comes out and it rests for a little while. And then you bake it again after you cut it. So there's a bit of a process. And in order to get this all in within an hour or less, I wanted to kind of have some done ahead of time so you can see. But to start things off, we will start with making the dough for those of you who haven't done that yet. And although I offered you 3 different recipes online, as you will have seen, the one I'm going to do for you is one of the more complicated ones. I think the most complicated one, which isn't really complicated at all, but the most complicated one is the chocolate chip one. But my very favorite one is the cranberry orange pistachio biscotti. And the recipe just calls it cranberry orange. You can add the pistachio if you like, or you don't have to. That's my favorite one, and that's the one that we're going to do here and make the extra dough for. And then we'll move on from there. So I went ahead and got my big KitchenAid mixer out. Like I mentioned in the email this morning that I sent to everyone, I've been baking cookies all weekend. So I've got a lot of the traditional holiday cookies that my family enjoys, but then the biscotti tends to be something that looks really nice. And you can even give us gifts. I have a neighborhood cookie exchange coming up tomorrow night. So I'm going to be doing all the cookies I've done this weekend and some of the biscotti for that cookie exchange. And I have a feeling the biscotti will go pretty quickly because everybody loves it. So to start off, you start off with cold butter. I'm not sure the complete rationale behind this, but it does work best if you use your butter pretty cold. So you're using 4 tablespoons cut into 4 pieces, and you're going to just put that into your mixer. Let me see if I can pull my mixer forward a bit. And we need to get that, Alex. There we go. All right. So I am going to put my 4 tablespoons of butter into my mixer. And I'm going to start that creaming a little bit. And then while it's doing that, I'm going to add in my 3/4 of a cup of granulated sugar. And we're going to let that cream, and it should get pretty nice and creamy for you. It changes color just a little bit. And of course, if you don't have a stand mixer, you can use any kind of a handheld mixer. I do think a mixer works better than just, using a wooden spoon or a whisk. But if that's what you've got, that's what you've got. You're just going to have to put a little more elbow grease into it. Is anybody cooking along with me today? I think Doug was going to. Doug made it on. Okay, now I'm going to add in my, let's see, what did it say this was? A teaspoon, because I pre-measured, a teaspoon of vanilla extract. I'm going to add in 1 egg at a time and let that kind of go with 1 egg. I also like to use my eggs a little closer to room temperature. So if you can take those out a little ahead of time, that's also helpful. Turn it up just a little bit. Add in my other egg. And for this one, I'm going to add in my orange zest. I just get the dried one, but you can absolutely use fresh orange zest if you have a zester and some oranges around. I think that would be even better. But I'm going the lazy way and using just some dried orange zest. And while that is mixing, I'm going to let that continue to beat for a minute. And while that's happening, I'm going to go ahead and mix my dry ingredients. So we have 2 cups of flour, all-purpose flour, by the way. Now, if you want to do this gluten-free, and you can get the 1-for-1 gluten-free flour, I think that would work fine. Other recipes I've seen use for a little bit different variety have used half all-purpose and half whole wheat. You can try that if you like. But I think for the gluten-free folks, if you have the 1-for-1, it should work pretty well. So we got that in there. We're going to add in our teaspoon of baking powder and our half teaspoon of salt. And we are going to whisk that all together. Now, the recipe is a little different, but what I like to do is turn my mixer down to slow and just slowly add my dry ingredients in there. And so that you don't get a powder of flour in your air, do it really slowly. You try to go too fast, you'll get a big storm of flour in the air.
Melanie is mentioning that for cup, the baking time needs to be lengthened.
Okay, yeah, follow those directions on your gluten-free flour, definitely. Okay, let that mix a little bit more. All right, now I like to do these, as I said, with both cranberries and pistachios. You don't have to use both if you don't like, but I think also one of the things I was going to mention is if you go to Trader Joe's, they have dried cranberries, but they also have dried cranberries with an orange essence in them, which makes these even more orangey, which is great. So that's what I've got here. I've got the dried cranberries with the orange essence in it. I'm going to put those in. And my pistachios. And then I'm just going to give it a quick turn. Mix it up a bit more. There we go. All right. So that's my dough. That all off the beater there so you don't lose any of that yummy dough. Okay, and what I tend to do, which I did not get out, just a second. I like to use cling wrap. So I will get the cling wrap out and just put some down on my counter. Go. Pull that out. And then loosen up my bowl. work my dough and make sure you get all that flour and anything that's kind of accumulated in the bottom of your mixing bowl, kind of get that mixed in well. And turn that out on your cling wrap. There we go. As you can see, this is such a simple recipe. And the almond is even simpler. And then the chocolate just means a little less flour and a little cocoa powder and some other different mix-ins. So we've got this all together here. I'm gonna kind of turn it into a ball, kind of work it together with my hands here. And as you can see, the dough is really soft right now and a little sticky, which is one of the reasons that we refrigerate it for about 30 minutes or, you know, as much time as you can to get it a little cold. So let's throw that in the fridge. There we go. All right, let me rinse my hands. And I will show you some of the items that you can put into your mix. So as I said, the Trader Joe's has these orange flavored dried cranberries. That's what I went with for this batch. And they also have just pistachios. They call them nut meats, halves and pieces. You can go with that. You can crack your own pistachios. You can use other nuts if you like. If you'd rather use a pecan or something, you can always do that. I think the nuts just give it a little extra flavor, a little extra zest. So we have other doughs that I made in advance, and I'll show you those. So this was the one I made ahead of time, and half of this one is in the oven baking now so that we can cut it in just a little while. This is the cranberry pistachio. I also did the plain almond, and that comes out just as a plain almond. You're going to eventually, once they've chilled a bit, you're going to cut them into 2 pieces. And then I also did the chocolate chip with almond. You can see how that comes out. Now I will say that the chocolate chip almond comes out a little bit stiffer. So just be prepared for that. Once it's warmed up a little bit, it will be easier to manipulate as well. But while we're waiting for that other one to come out of the oven, I want to show you the process for putting the dough on your tray. Now, I like to use parchment paper because I think it makes it work a lot better and it's an easy cleanup. So what you're going to do is take half of your dough. If you don't have your dough ready yet and it's chilling, just go right ahead. I'm just going to show you the process. So my dough, I actually made this yesterday and I kept it in the fridge overnight. So I took it out about an hour ago to let it soften up and become a little more pliable so I can work with it. So as it says in the recipe, you want to kind of form it into an oblong shape, kind of like a log. It needs to be about 8 inches long, if you can get it to that point. And then you want to press it down with your hand so that it makes almost like a half moon shape on the paper. So it's curved on top, flat on the bottom. And you're trying to press it down so that it's about 3/4 of an inch long. On your ends, because your end pieces are going to be good biscotti as well, you don't want your ends to be too narrow. So I tend to kind of try to flatten that out a little bit on the ends. And keep it fairly uniform, but press it down till it's about 3/4 of an inch thick. Okay, so I've got one of those ready there. I'm going to do the other one. And while I'm doing this, I forgot to mention that we are very grateful to our sponsor for World Kitchen, which is the Outreach and Online Education Office at Penn State's Office of Inclusion, Equity, and Diversity. Thank them very much for their support. Okay, got this oval. I'm going to start pressing it down.
They say Office of Penn State?
Yeah,
Who is that?
WPSU.
No, but I mean, who's the person cooking? Tamara Fatemi-Badi.
Hi there, it's Tamra, yes. For those of you who are new, I'm the host of World Kitchen. I've been doing this since October of 2020. We started World Kitchen during the pandemic as a way of keeping in touch with the folks that might normally be coming to in-person events at WPSU. I'm the event coordinator for the station. And so this was a way to keep in touch and stay, in people's minds, and it went well. And so we've continued it. So we've just started our third season. October and November were third seasons because we started in October of 2020. And so we are going to keep going. Most of the shows are done by chefs from other countries who share their food with you. When I do the shows, I typically do Persian shows because that's my husband's background, and I've been cooking Persian food for about 39 years. And so I typically do a lot of Persian things, but today we're just doing something fun. You want to go ahead and take that out? Yep. All right, so we now have both of our logs about roughly the same size. It's not going to be exact, but just so that they're that nice half moon shape and your ends are a little squared. And there we go. We can go to the overhead, Alex. There you go. You can see the two logs. Now, this is the point where, if you like, you could use some turbinado sugar on there. And I can't find mine, just a second. I wasn't able to actually find the turbinado, so what I found was some basically big white sugar sprinkles. So if you like, because this is the almond ones and they are a little plainer than the others, I'm going to put some of that on here, make them a little pretty and a little sugary. Oops, there we go. Fun fact, when I was living in the Middle East, what we call turbinado sugar here, the big flakes, was just sugar over there. If we wanted the sugar like we have here, we had to look for other sugar, like a specialty sugar. So it was very expensive to get the sugar that we have here. And we would often come home in the summertime or at Christmas and bring it back with us, so we didn't have to pay the exorbitant prices for the fancy sugar.
Cindy is asking, would sanding sugar do?
Sanding sugar. Is sanding sugar more fine or more coarse? I think the whole point is for it to be a little coarser so you see it. Yeah, yes, that would work fine then. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna let Alex pop these in the oven for us. And then, as you can see, this is another one of the cranberry pistachio halves that I was talking about that I made. He just took the other half of that out of the oven and it's cooling slightly. It needs to cool. I think it said let it cool for 30 minutes. I don't necessarily let it cool for 30 minutes. I give it 10, 15, just so it cools down. And that's just so that it slices a little cleaner and a little better for you. Gonna make this into a log a little bit there so we can pop it in the oven when the others come out. Now, the chocolate chip, as I said, is definitely firmer. And I don't know if that's got to do with, all the extra ingredients in it or if it's the cocoa. But this one, I think I probably need to leave out a little bit longer. It's still a little too chilled to really mold, but it's starting to soften up. So as soon as it gets soft enough, I would, form that into the log as well. And, break it down into that 8-inch log as well before I bake it. So there's that. Another option, let me rinse my hands here real quick. Another option for the biscotti, as I said, they tend to be really good gifts for giving out, hostess gifts if you're going to a party, white elephant gifts, whatever, is to dip them in chocolate. So I did that. With this, I just used those melting chocolates and did them in a double boiler, and then dipped the biscotti into the white chocolate. So you can do that, or you could do it with chocolate chips if you want to, get those softened in a double boiler. But this is just those melting candies you can get pretty much anywhere to give it that extra chocolate flavor. All right, and another option for this, I kind of dressed up a little bit here, was to show you the way you can take maybe 4 biscotti or whatever number you feel comfortable with. Just put a bow on it, put it in maybe a cellophane bag or even a nice Christmas baggie or something like that. And you can also give those or make them like little gifts at a place setting if you're having a Christmas or holiday party, just to have those for friends if you like.
Cindy's just mixing some food coloring to get some Christmas colors on the chocolate.
Oh, okay, yep, you could do that, or you could, if you want to do those melts and put the food coloring in and then put it in a piping bag, you could even drizzle out of a piping bag, or you can even use a spoon if it's thin enough, I think, to just spoon the drizzle over the biscotti if they're all on a cookie sheet or something, and then let that dry. So let's see here. Another option I wanted to show you today. This is via my friend and colleague, Carolyn Donaldson, whom a lot of you know. Carolyn dropped off a very sweet gift for me yesterday, and she offered to talk about it herself, but she's a little busy today. So these are orange pomanders. And I'm sure most of you know what these are, but I think a lot of people have forgotten about them because they're kind of an old-fashioned thing to have done many, many years ago. So you take an orange and you poke holes in it and put whole cloves in it, and the smell is amazing. So this is to make your house smell nice and citrusy and cinnamony and clovey throughout the holidays. It just gives a really nice smell. And of course, Carolyn, being who she is, had to add this beautiful holly leaf with red berries on this pretty Christmas plate when she delivered it. But I wanted to show you another option with that as well, because I've done this way back when I was a Girl Scout leader. I did this with my Girl Scout troop. So what I like to do is take your orange and put a ribbon on it so that you can hang it later. Be sure you tie a good knot so that it doesn't come loose. And then take your cloves. So I have a nice dish of these cloves here. And you're going to want to use some a toothpick, because the orange skin tends to be pretty tough. So you can make a beautiful design if you like, or you can just do however you like, but go down the orange, making your holes, then take your whole cloves and poke them right in that hole you just created with the toothpick. So as I said, you can make beautiful designs. The smell of this, I mean, you get that orange juice, that orange scent, and then the clove scent, and it's just beautiful, and it smells so good. This is so much fun to do with kids too. If you have children or grandchildren in your life, or even neighbors or friends that you want to do a little project with, this is so much fun. And as Carolyn did, you can use a big orange, like this is a full-size navel orange, or you can do like the little cuties or the clementines or whatever you've got. So anything like that will work. It smells delicious. The other thing Carolyn did with hers is she sprinkled cinnamon on them. You can see they have a little bit of a brown tinge to them. She sprinkled cinnamon on them. I might not recommend that if you're going to hang these. What we used to do, especially if you use the small ones, the little clementines or cuties, you put the ribbon on, you can hang them on your tree if they're lightweight enough, which those little ones are. So they just smell nice and make a beautiful little addition to your home at the holiday time. So there's that. And now, Alex, you want to give me that other tray? I know it hasn't been quite long enough, but we'll go ahead and show everyone how this works. All right. So when let's go to the overhead. When your biscotti comes out of the oven, you'll see it spread a little bit. This was about the size of the ones I showed you before. So it has spread a little bit. So if you're doing 2 on one sheet, be sure you give them enough room so that once they spread a bit, there's space for it. So I would make sure that it's loose from the parchment paper. And typically I would let this cool just a little bit more. The important part about the biscotti is that you cut it at an angle. And I use a good sharp knife. And you don't want to saw at the biscotti. You want to do one clean cut. So I would start at an angle about here and do a clean cut down. Okay. And then it's up to you how thick you want your biscotti. I think typically it's about under an inch. So 3/4 of an inch, half an inch. Some people like them thinner, some people like them thicker. It's up to you and how many you want to get out of your loaf. But go ahead and do another one here. So again, you're keeping these even. And I can see that this one is definitely cutting not as well as the ones I did yesterday because I haven't left it cool quite long enough. Be sure that you do that. So this is how you're going to handle that. And then when you get it all cut, I'm going to not cut the rest of it so that it has time here. Then you're going to use the same parchment paper or cookie sheet. And the end piece won't really stand up per se. So, you know, it kind of has to lay on its end. But the rest of them, you're going to turn on their side and let them be cut end up like this, okay? And space them out. And then you're going to place them back in the oven for another, what did it say? 12 to 15 minutes. I think I did leave mine in there closer to the 15. And I also, even though it doesn't really mention it, I took a look at them and I did go in and flip them over about halfway through. After about 7 or 8 minutes, I flipped them and let the other side toast and dry out a little bit as well. So that is how that works. And then when they come out, you want to let them cool off on a wire rack or something before you try to put them away. Now, these will keep at room temperature for a couple of weeks. I don't think any of them would ever last that long, to be honest with you, around my house. But if you think you want to keep them that long, you might also want to just pop them in the fridge. But I think for at least 3 or 4 days at room temperature is perfectly fine, but keep them in an airtight container. So does anyone have any questions?
Barana is asking, can you use them after they cool and not rebake them? My family likes soft cookies.
You could, they would definitely be much softer. You know, the whole point of the biscotti is that it is crispy and you dip it in typically coffee, cappuccino, even tea. Kids might dip it in hot cocoa or milk. But I think if you really want to, you could give that a shot. They're definitely not going to be as crispy. So see what you think. I've never done that, to be honest with you. They soften quickly.
Yeah, I guess Cindy's saying they soften quickly in a tasty hot beverage.
Yes, they do. Yeah. Yeah. Another nice thing you can do, I've seen people do is when they serve a mug of hot cocoa or, you know, a cappuccino or something, they lay a couple of the biscotti on top. So it gets a little warm from the warm steam coming up from the beverage, but then you of course dip it when you're going to eat it. Is anyone still cooking along? Is your dough coming out okay? Okay. All right. Well, as I mentioned, this was going to be a quick one today. The recipes you can add, what, sorry?
You want to see the one that's baked already?
Oh yeah, let me bring that over. There we go. That's cool. All right. These are the ones I baked yesterday, as you can see. Let's see, Susan's asking a question, maybe.
Susan says she made hers this morning, cranberry orange, and they came out great.
Oh, Wonderful, great. So, like I said, these are my favorite. I love these cranberry orange, and I like to add the pistachio in. As you can see, my ends came out a little short, of course, as they will, but also then you've got, I typically get about 10 pieces out of a log. So, one recipe will give you about 20 biscotti, but that's counting these end pieces, which are just as good, just a little shorter. And so that's how they came out for me. These are the ones I made yesterday, and I did leave them out overnight and dried out, because the whole point of them is to be dry. Like I said, sometimes in some years I've made these as gifts for neighbors and friends, and I'll get, just a clear cellophane bag and put, like 6 of these in there or whatever, and tie it with a pretty ribbon and put a note on it. And it's a great Christmas gift and really inexpensive.
Doug's saying my first batch is done, the first bake, how easy, and Willa is saying I'm baking mine right now.
Great. Be sure you do let them cool long enough. Like I said, if you don't let them cool, they are going to be a little mushy. Also, make sure that they're cooked through. You don't want the middles to be too gooey or anything. So make sure you've cooked them that full time, and double check it. It shouldn't really be browned on top, but you should be able to tell that it's gotten kind of solid. So if it needs a couple extra minutes, depending on your oven, just be sure it's cooked through, and then give it that 20 minutes, I'd say, is a good time, 20 to 30 minutes of cooling time. Be sure you use that knife in a straight down motion, but at an angle, because that's the whole charm of the biscotti, is that it is done at an angle and makes them a little bit longer.
Charlotte saying thank you for the recipes. I made the chocolate ones last night, and she added orange extract instead of vanilla extract to the orange cranberry biscotti.
Very nice. That's a great idea. I didn't have any orange extract, but I bet that really makes them even more flavorful. Yeah. Okay, those of you who have cooked along, I would love to see your finished product. If you could shoot me an email with the photos. And I want to thank Doug for sending his photos last month after World Kitchen Belgium, or sorry, World Kitchen Bulgaria. Sorry, one of those countries that starts with a B. Bulgaria. So thank you for sending those photos along. We really appreciate seeing what you've done with us. Next month, we'll be featuring a chef from Iraq. And so please keep an eye on the WPSU website to sign up for that. I think it's going to be a very interesting episode. And my guest chef is a very sweet lady I've known for many, many years. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So keep an eye out for that. I know this was a quick one today. I hope you guys are as busy as I am getting ready for all of this vast array of holidays we're all looking at. And I hope we'll see you again next month. Thanks so much.